What's going on, everybody? It's Kellen Nitro for Nitromaniac TV's wrestling channel, and at the other end of the line is the Moorhouse CDN. Moorhouse, how's it going today?
Too sweet, or one sweet, or zero sweet. Yeah, I don't know.
You can't really do the. Well, you're not part of the Young Bucks, so. By the way, that's one of the most awesome head games I've seen in Ring of Honor recently. Is opposing teams doing the too sweet thing when they're facing the Young Bucks. And just a reaction. I love that spot. Like it pops me every time I see that. Because I think I think like the Kingdom have done it once, and whoever they fought at the 16th anniversary show and that 6-man. Oh yeah, SoCal Uncensored. That's right.
SoCal.
They did that a couple times. Yeah, Flip Gordon's done it. Oh man, it's fun. It's a fun little spot, but. Something that is always fun is the WWE Hall of Fame. I have been fortunate to attend a couple of these Hall of Fame ceremonies live in 2014 and 2017. And sometimes, like last year, the ceremony flows nicely and the guests are amazing. I think the only real downside to the ceremony last year was Beth Phoenix just going on and on and on and on and on. But you know, you can listen to OSW Review or a few other podcasts of the same ilk that were there in attendance that will say the same thing. 2014 was very interesting, it being my very first Hall of Fame, and seeing, first of all, Ultimate Warrior getting inducted, which, given the events later that week, was kind of surreal at the end of it all. You know, full disclosure, I am not a Warrior fan, have never been a Warrior fan, and I think that he just wasn't a very nice human being at all. But just being around and living through that entire experience is just interesting and something I'll never forget. Mr. T, that same year, with one of the most long, rambling, faith-filled acceptance speeches I think I've ever heard for anything.
He loves his mama.
Yeah, and that stuff, and it was just, that was bad. You know, almost.
That's crazy though.
Almost got
this.
Almost got thrown out of the ceremony for heckling too loud, but we've, you know, didn't, thankfully. So we were able to sit for the entire thing. But the point that I'm getting here, Moorhouse, is that it's hit and miss with the guests. And this year's guest list for WWE Hall of Fame for inductees, I think, and I'm going to go out on a limb, and the comment section is going to light up here, is one of the most lackluster and I think one of the worst in recent memory. From front to back. Now, why would I say that? Well, let's take a look at at who they're planning on inducting this year, and we'll talk about it at length a little bit during this video. But I'm going to exclude the Warrior Award because that's the special award, even though they've botched the idea so badly from what the initial idea was for the Warrior Award. But again, that's another video for another time. I think the kid getting it is a very funny kid, and obviously, you know, I hope that he's able to make a speech at the thing. I believe he's still alive, so and I can't wait to hear from him at the Hall of Fame, and I'm sure it's going to be a thrill for him and a thrill for everybody, you know, in attendance to see and hear this kid, because he's actually very funny. I've chuckled, you know, endlessly at his stuff on YouTube, and it's really hilarious. So the headliner, Goldberg, we were discussing off air, but you said that this is a fella that had a 5-year run at the top of the industry, and that's about it. Let's elaborate a little bit more if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. So Bill Goldberg, former Atlanta Falcons reserve player, got shot out of a cannon in '97.
You mean he wasn't on the starting roster?
No, he was he played every now and then, but he wasn't an active player.
Right.
He trained at WCW Power Plants. Then they looked at him and they're like, we're going to push him to the rocket, or put a rocket strap on him, send him to the moon. And did they ever? He had a hell of a push. through 97, 98, and then they butchered it in 99, and then he kind of floated until retirement.
Yeah, well, it was, and then WCW went under, and then they brought it back in 2003 to WWE, and you got the matchups you wanted to see, kind of, sort of. I mean, we never got that Stone Cold Goldberg matchup that everybody was clamoring for when the announcement was made that WWF was buying WCW, and that a lot of the WCW talent would have their contracts picked up by WWE under an evaluation, I guess, basis and stuff, and whoever they liked, they would have kept.
The unique thing about his contract, he wasn't signed to WCW. He was signed to Time Warner.
Okay.
So they had to let that run out before they can make an offer at him. He came into WWF. He had okay match with The Rock. He was put in a feud with Triple H just to put Triple H over most of the time. And then he left.
Then he left, yes. And we thought that whole WrestleMania 20 thing, if it wasn't for the Benoit situation and that stuff, this probably now, with the recent resurgence of popularity of bringing Goldberg back in and that stuff, would be a reason enough for WWE to kind of sweep WrestleMania 20 under the rug and say, oh, it didn't happen. Because you had a matchup about halfway through the card that night between Brock Lesnar and Goldberg that the fans at MSG hated because
they're
both leaving at the end of the night. And the only person who was staying was the ref, and he was just a booked-in celebrity at that point because Austin was just starting to do movies. So, yeah, it was probably one of the more surreal experiences I've had watching wrestling was watching that match. And just that's the first time I've seen white-hot heat towards two individuals in the ring, and that nobody was cheering for either person at all. The only person you were cheering for was the ref doing his stuff, so...
And the weird thing is, if they had a good match, maybe we would have redeemed it, but they decided to milk a house show type performance.
Yeah. No, it wasn't very good. It was very lackluster, to say the least. We don't hear from Goldberg for a while, and then, in fact, he's the later part of the 2000s and that stuff distanced himself from wrestling entirely. He's doing reality shows about cars and podcasts and everything.
I think he did. Yeah, he did a bit of MMA commentaries too.
Yeah, anything but wrestling. Obviously, small bits of movies. Whenever you needed him, you got him. 2016 rolls around. And the WWE 2K17 video game is about to be released. And they bring in Goldberg as a DLC pre-order bonus to a video game.
Let me interrupt you. Do you notice something funny about the DLC specials for these games that have a wrestler who signed on for it to appear 6 months later?
I don't pay too close attention to the DLC bonuses because it's either I'm going to buy the game when it comes out or I'm going to wait 6 or 8 months when it's down to like a normal price and then I'm going to buy it, right? Which is what I did with this year's WWE 2K18. But now that you mention it, yeah, okay, I could see that. You
had Kurt Angle, you had Goldberg, Sting, Warrior.
Yeah.
All of them came back like 5 or 6 months after they signed that 2K contract.
So what you're saying is pay attention in September and October when they start running the ads for 2K19, and then we'll figure out who they're bringing back for Mania next year, potentially.
I wouldn't bet against it.
Fabulous Moolah. No, just nope. Not after what we discussed. Nope. But anyways, there was an interview on ESPN. Jonathan Coachman did the interview with Goldberg prior to the video game coming out, and Goldberg famously said in the interview, after Coachman said, is there one guy that you would like to have a matchup with right now in WWE? And Goldberg said, without a question of a doubt, it's Brock Lesnar. Fast forward to Survivor Series, we have Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar. Goldberg goes over on Lesnar in, like, not even a minute. Yeah. And I can't remember the exact time. So it was even it was less than 2 minutes. I know that much, which puts him in the catbird seat for another quote unquote run. Goldberg gets entered into the Royal Rumble. They have, I guess, a face-off because Lesnar was in the Royal Rumble too, wasn't he?
Yeah, and so was Taker. They did the 3 of them together.
Yeah. Boom, boom, boom. That happens. Goldberg
Kevin Owens.
Yeah, Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho. Meanwhile, Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho are embroiled in one of the angles of the year last year in WWE, and an angle that should have been the Raw Brand's WWE Champion, the Raw Brand's Universal Championship match at WrestleMania in Orlando that year. Would have easily passed, and the crowd would have loved it. One of the best betrayal angles since the barbershop with Michaels and Jannetty back in the early 90s. They go into Fastlane, and Owens drops the belt to Goldberg to give Goldberg and Lesnar a Universal title match at Mania, and then they do the match at Mania, and Goldberg drops it to Lesnar. That's why we got Lesnar as Universal Champion now.
This is what I call how to bury the entire roster by pushing Goldberg.
And so we come to today full circle, and Goldberg is going into the Hall of Fame. I guess because you can't deny it was important that WCW had Goldberg late 90s, and the run that he came in at the very tail end of their success and everything like that is such a huge thing. Ultimately, him going into the WWE Hall of Fame as the headliner this year kind of underlines, in my opinion, the weakness of this Hall of Fame roster. It's very weak from top to bottom.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not the biggest Goldberg fan. I understand why he's in there. I'm not supportive, but if he's a headliner, well, what about other guys who aren't in there?
Yeah.
Like, I know Diana will never let it happen, but Owen would be a better headliner, or Davey Boy.
I think it was Martha.
Martha? Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Diana wants Davey Boy in the Hall of Fame, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, my mistake. Yeah, Martha keeps blocking.
The whole Smith family has been on board with it. It's just, for whatever reason, they've never brought Davey Boy to the top now. Will we ever see Davey Boy in there with Dynamite as part of the Bulldogs? Oh man, as much as I would love to see that happen, I don't know if that would happen. But they were such an influential tag team in the 80s for WWF. It was just, insane, and their work at Stampede is second to none. I mean, like, they're just,
they're Hall of Famers.
They are definitely Hall of Famers, yeah, for sure. And getting back, I think eventually one day they knocked the first hurdle out of the way by doing the DVD compilation on Owen, with the relationship there and that stuff. Now, was debated. I don't think it was under Martha's, I guess, approval and that stuff.
I think they got it, and then she declined it later on.
Yeah. Yeah, but then it was like, well, too late. We're producing it anyway because, you signed a contract.
You already signed it. You signed it, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, those are two definitely we'd love to see in, but it might never happen. But anyways, regarding this year's list, like we said, we're going top to bottom and just elaborating why we feel that it's a very weak thing. Now, we should mention this at time of recording. I guess the full Hall of Fame roster from top to bottom has not been announced. We're still missing, confirmation on one or two names. We just found out earlier today, though, that it sounds like Mark Henry's going into the Hall of Fame, so that would be another name to talk about right here. Here's a guy that WWE signs in 1996.
Ridiculous contract.
To like one of the worst contracts, well, we'll put it in the worst contracts of pro sports, let alone entertainment. It's like a 15-year personal services contract or something that he's guaranteed for 15 years for or something. Like, it's insane.
It's like signing your third-round draft pick, a 15-year deal.
It's the Rick DiPietro of wrestling deals. if there's any hockey fans that are listening and watching this online. It's not very good. When it starts, it's not very good because he had that one match with Lawler at SummerSlam '96, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then I don't know where he was. If he was just, they sent him back to train in pro wrestling and developmental and that stuff.
Yeah.
They bring him back 98-ish.
And he's still not quite ready.
He's still not quite ready, so he becomes a bit player with the Nation.
Comedy wrestler.
Then later on in its part of the Attitude Era, Sexual Chocolate, blah, 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 blah. And then bows out again. They relaunch him again 2003-ish.
Yeah.
SmackDown brand?
With Teddy Long, yeah.
Yeah. And trying to push him as a ruthless monster.
Still didn't work.
Has a decent match with Undertaker, I want to say WrestleMania 2006 or 05 or 6-ish.
Yeah.
And then just kind of hangs around as part of that whole, like, right after the Benoit tragedy, there was a downturn in WWE programming so bad that I actually tuned out of watching pro wrestling for about a year and a half, 2 years. Well, at least the major promotions. I still watched a little bit on the indies and that stuff, but I didn't watch any WWE stuff just because it was terrible to watch. Between WWE, ECW, like we're talking Tiffany era GM, WWE, ECW. She ended up being okay for TNA once she learned how to wrestle and that stuff and everything as Taryn Terrell, but as back in the ECW things, that wasn't very good.
You heard it here first. Kellen is not a Sylvester Turkey fan.
The Man Bear. I always got that confused with that old comedy skit from that one show, Man Bear Pig. I can't remember what show that was, but I'm sure somebody's screaming in the comments below, yeah, it's from that show. And, good for you. You win all the internet points. If you can name what show that's from, there you go. You get 10 internet points.
Good for you. But 100 of them get you a free soda.
I was going to say, but the internet is like, whose line is it anything? Everything's made up and the points don't matter. Hey, by the way, Drew Carey's in the WWE Hall of Fame. We'll talk about the celebrity.
Yeah, back to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, back to that. But just in closing about Mark Henry, I guess if a guy sticks around long enough, he's going to get inducted. I guess that's what they're doing here.
He did have a good run in 09-10 with the Hall of Pain angle.
Yeah. Okay.
That was pretty much his benchmark. He became a SmackDown champion. Mm-hmm. He feuded with Punk and Orton and Big Show, but then he got hurt, and that was pretty much the end because he kept getting hurt every time he gets a little further. He gets hurt again.
Right. Exactly. So, good for him going in. It's not wowing me. Like, it's like, whoa, but I'm sure the speech will be good. And
I think he's better than 40% of the other guys in the Hall of Fame.
Okay, yeah, I'll give you that. Sure, I'm not going to debate that fact. I think that's pretty solid. Okay. Next up, I'll just bring this out of the way. The one Hall of Fame inductee this year that I agree with 100% is the Dudley Boys, because that tag team is our version of the Road Warriors, and by our version I mean like fans who grew up watching Attitude Era, ECW, and then into the Ruthless Aggression Era, WWE, shortly thereafter. These guys won tag team belts wherever they went, whether it was ECW, WWE, TNA, Japan, you name it. They got their names throughout, and pretty much took what was supposed to be a comedy gimmick in ECW and made it the most hated gimmick in the business at one time. And then, just one of the most over acts WWE has ever had. So much to the point that, if you bring those guys in for like a Rumble in Philly or something like that, and we've seen it in the past, they get the biggest pop of the night. Like, they just go, boom. And they still to this day contribute so much to the business, just because they both are running a wrestling school in Florida and that stuff that's trained some pretty big names, some names that you've probably heard and seen on the indies so far and that stuff. I think the first one I remember seeing was Leva Bates on Shimmer cards, and then later on in NXT and that stuff. Yeah, so man, it is good and great to see them in. And that's the one name that I agree with going into the Hall of Fame this year.
No,
Well, names, I
absolutely.
guess.
Absolutely. Both of them had great tag team success. They're part of the first couple TLC matches, which put all 6 of those guys over. They've won titles ECW, WWE, WWF, New Japan, TNA, and then also Bubba has had individual success in other promotions like Ring of Honor and House of Hardcore.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, for sure. So good to see those guys in, and I'm sure that'll be good. Double J Jeff Jarrett. If you would have came to me 10 years ago and said Double J Jeff Jarrett would be a WWE Hall of Fame member, I would go up to you and say, please, sir, what are you smoking and where can I buy some? Because, man, the destruction of total nonstop action wrestling is one of the most fascinating falls from, I don't want to say grace, but falls from being a legit contender to WWE that anyone has ever seen, breathing on the face of the planet. So,
and now they're a Canadian indie promotion.
Yeah. Like, how the hell did we adopt them? That's the thing. It's the most twisted route ever for a promotion ever. But, we talked him coming in the mid-90s from USWA. It's obviously Jerry Lawler influenced decision, saying, hey, there's this kid down here. He's Jerry Jarrett's kid. Bring him in. He's pretty good. They give him, because country music was hot at that time, a Nashville singing gimmick. I guess because maybe he looked like...
His goal was to use professional wrestling to boost his country music bookings.
Well, he got booked more in wrestling than he ever did in country music. But the legendary "With My Baby Tonight" angle, which he was an Intercontinental Champion, and he had that big match with Shawn Michaels in Nashville, of all places. It was supposed to be because it's in Jarrett's hometown. The crowd was going to be behind Jarrett and everything, and the crowd wasn't behind Jarrett, and they were behind Michaels more than anything else. And then on top of that, the lip sync angle between him and Road Dogg was kind of received as lackluster. And then on top of that, he jumped ship at the end and says, I'm going to WCW for more money. And gets thrown to WCW, kind of languishes mid-card there, comes back late 97.
I think he went to Smoky Mountain too, briefly.
Yeah, okay, sure. So that's, a lot of people spent time in the early to mid 90s in Smoky Mountain and that stuff, and that's just because Cornette has such a great relationship with a lot of wrestlers from that era, and that stuff, and a lot of wrestlers saw a lot of appeal to going to Smoky Mountain. It's kind of like Smoky Mountain then is kind of like, and maybe we'll discuss this at a later time because I think it's a good jumping off point for a few discussions, but I think Smoky Mountain back then is the equivalency of what NXT is now. As this is a cool developmental fed that you can go if you're an established superstar and get a couple of bookings down there, make a couple of paydays, have fun, see who's coming up, and then maybe you might see a guy that you might like, i.e., I can't remember who it was that pitched Glenn Jacobs, I should say. Later on was Kane to WWE. I just listened to this on a podcast too, but it was somebody down there.
Yeah, Glenn was a Smoky Mountain guy too.
Exactly, yeah. So I think it might have even been Undertaker, because Undertaker wrestled Unabomb down there in that one match that you can see on YouTube. And so maybe that was the way it was. I can't remember, but so that was one thing. And you look at NXT now, and it's a lot similar and that stuff, where established WWE roster people can go down to the PC in Orlando and find out when NXT's running in Florida, and then just go to the show and be like, hey, Lars Sullivan, that's a cool guy. I want to go back to creative, and maybe we'll call him up and get him to do a feud with Strowman or something.
but now he's a refrigerator repairman.
Oh, okay.
That's his new gimmick.
Oh, okay. I thought he got recently released or something. I didn't know about it. I was like, oh no.
No. I'm doing some WWF creative now.
There we go. So, but anyways, getting back to Double J. 97 comes in as part of the NWA invasion of WWE. Then later on rehashes with Robert Fuller the whole Tennessee Lee Double J country music singer gimmick. I've talked about this on a past gimmick table when we were talking about Stone Cold Country, the involvement of the country band Sawyer Brown with the angle and stuff. Steve Blackman getting smucked in the head with a guitar on a worldwide pay-per-view on stage. So, it's because karate guy versus country guy. That'd be funny.
Makes sense.
And 98, mid-98, they do another character change with him, and he becomes kind of this angry redneck dude with a hot female manager in Deborah McMichael. And
did he even have a gimmick, though? I don't think it was a gimmick.
It was just... Yeah, I think they just let him be him and just let him be just pissed off. That's it.
Yeah, he's just pissed off. Yeah. That was all he was.
So then they tag him with Owen Hart, who was also pissed off at the time.
And they were ultra conservative.
Yeah, they were uber conservative for sure. Until Owen's untimely passing. That's, another discussion for another time. Jeff hangs around for a little bit longer. Ends up racking up a ton of Intercontinental title reigns. Like, I think Jericho surpassed him, and I think he's now maybe second or third on the list all time for Intercontinental title reigns.
Yeah, he's up there.
Yeah. And
gets his notice,
jumps to WCW. Yeah, jumps to China on the pay-per-view. Jumps ship to WCW, forms the new NWO with Bret Hart, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, and Scott Steiner. If I got those 5 names correctly, and I think that was Vince Russo's version of the NWO, if I remember.
And the Harrises, yeah.
And the Harrises, yeah. And they were going to be the relaunch of Russo's WCW, but then of course we all know what happened there. Jarrett rides out everything, is involved in the Bash at the Beach 2000 atrocity with Hulk Hogan.
He pushed himself to a main event. He wasn't main event, but he became main event.
Broke 1,000 guitars, never drew a dime, in the immortal words of the late Mike Graham.
I was going to say that.
And
then
ends up being pretty much bought out of everything when WCW closes.
He wasn't even looked at.
But here is the twist. Here's the twist coming out of that. Decides that he's not going to go after a WWE contract, and instead talks with his dad and develops TNA with the help of the National Wrestling Alliance that was around. That was kind of floundering at that time and that stuff. But I would say, and then we're talking about this point 10 years ago now and that stuff. There was a point 10 years ago where that was a good main event, by the way, Rhino and Raven. I actually enjoyed that card. That was good. Unbreakable 2005. Man, 10 years ago, TNA was just... I don't want to say it was a license to print money, but they were making some serious cash because they were what I thought what the model future federation would be like.
Yeah, they hired a lot of the hot indie wrestlers at the time who weren't getting chances with WWE. It turned out to create a perfect product. They threw them in the X division, which had no weight limit, but it was somewhat with a weight limit.
Here's the thing. They allowed the indie guys to keep taking indie bookings, but just they would have to use their TNA music and give them their TNA merchandise to sell at the merch tables.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's better than going to a WWE house show because you can actually see, okay, this guy that was on Impact last Thursday on Spike TV, oh, he's coming to the rec center gym in my hometown, and he's wrestling the other guy from Ring of Honor in a main event. Cool. I'm going to go check that out, obviously, you know. There's two hot indie feds going one after another, right? So
absolutely. So Jarrett, I mean, he booked himself as a champ, which is a no-no. But
that's wrestling cliche, though. If you're the promoter, you're going to book yourself as. How many promoters do we know that have booked themselves as champs? Like probably all of them.
Vern Gagne pushed everybody but himself.
I mean, hell, Vince was WWE champion once in his life, so hey, whatever.
Okay, we'll scratch that. But anyway, Jarrett did give a lot of opportunities to people who weren't getting opportunities. He also had partnerships with New Japan, with Ring of Honor, so they were able to trade talent every now and then too.
Right. So that carries on. And then this is where it gets complicated, because this is when I kind of tuned out of watching Impact and TNA all about it, and so maybe you can help me fill in the gaps a little bit. So does the thing with Karen Angle lead to Jarrett's dismissal from the company the first time in 07, 08, or was there just a power struggle, or what was the...
He sold to Panda Energy,
Right.
But he still had booking ability. However, Kurt Angle, who was one of their top guys, his wife had an affair with Jeff Jarrett.
Right.
That caused a lot of bad blood and tension, and they had no choice but to let Jarrett go.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so they let him go. I guess Dixie Carter brings in Vince Russo, who him and Jim Cornette butt heads, obviously, because that's
Cornette leaves,
water. Cornette leaves. Russo's still around.
He brings Bischoff and Hogan in.
It's WCW all over again, and not the good WCW, but the bad WCW. And then we get Claire Lynch. No, anyway, that's later on down the line. And just over and over again, bad decisions.
They had a good thing when they changed and they brought Hogan and Bischoff in. They scrapped the six-sided ring, which was marketable for them. They decided, hey, we can compete on Monday nights, which was bad.
It didn't work out for them at all.
No.
And then, on top of that, at the end of it all, Jarrett eventually leaves TNA for good. I want to say about 12 or 13. I can't remember when that was exactly. But then starts up his new Global Force Wrestling idea promotion in about 14, 15-ish. They tape a bunch of shows in Las Vegas using primarily indie talent, but a lot of the headline names were people who were still on the Total Nonstop Action roster. People at that time, people like Bobby Roode, I don't want to say, I'm not sure if James Storm was involved in that or not, but Bobby Roode's a good example. They tape a bunch of shows,
and they never get released.
They never really get released. They never air on any TV. They do a bunch of ballpark house shows, and by ballpark I mean they actually filled.
Not filled.
Well, quarter filled minor league ballparks across the United States, and I'm not talking like your AAA, major league affiliate ballparks. This is your single A. Where's Johnny going to go to play baseball after college type ballparks in Cheryl's Ford, North Carolina, or down in them hills where they played in baseballs.
Yeah, GFW. Jarrett was trying to do the same thing he did with TNA in 2002. But with another idea he had, but the exact same way, and it just didn't work out this time.
Right, exactly.
However, GFW did one thing, and that's introduce New Japan to America.
That's right. Which is one of the weirdest twists to this now, is that the current New Japan Pro Wrestling product, the first time it was seen by mostly North American eyes, was brought to you via Global Force Wrestling pay-per-view license for Wrestle Kingdom 9, I think it was.
Yeah, number 9 they introduced.
Yeah, in 2015. and they had flown over Jim Ross, Matt Stryker, and I want to say, was Yoshitatsu the third man in the booth, or was it just Ross and Stryker that year?
I think it was just Ross, but it was... Yeah, it's the first time they recorded it in English for an American audience.
That's right. And it was broadcasted live on pay-per-view. That I remember because I ordered it, and it was the first time seeing guys like Ibushi, Omega, Shinsuke Nakamura,
Tanahashi.
Well, I had seen Tanahashi and Okada in TNA years earlier, but under their current gimmicks that they got now. If you can even call them gimmicks. They're, what it was. Yeah, and not a lot of people know this, but Jeff Jarrett is a member of the Bullet Club.
Was.
Well, debatable. Yes, I'm not sure. I guess same was as Gallows and Anderson are now.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
Alumni of the Bullet Club, I guess would be
alumni.
Yeah,
better,
for sure. So, because during 14 he invaded at the end of I want to say was it New Japan Cup or something like that? But anyway, he came out and made himself known that, hey, he's Bullet Club. So was involved in a 6-man tag, if I remember correctly, 6 or 8-man tag on that Wrestle Kingdom show to kind of, and during the show all they were doing was just hyping Global Force, hyping that, hey, this is coming to North America, Global Force is going to be a thing, they have a working relationship with New Japan, blah, 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 you're going to see New Japan guys in Global Force and vice versa, so...
And then Ring of Honor comes in and steals it.
That happens, yes. And then, Jarrett is floundering and starts the infamous Global Force Gold kind of, I don't want to say pyramid scheme, but it actually was, where Jeff Jarrett would buy your gold that you had and turn around and give you money for your gold.
Like 10%.
Yes. Like anything and everything that you can, see that you thought had gold in your your jewelry collection or something, and
Jarrett needs money.
Yeah.
Please give him gold.
Exactly, that's what it was. And so after that, obviously flounders out and that stuff. We don't hear from him for a bit until last year, in around Slammiversary time, and I discussed this on the channel in the early days of the channel with the Slammiversary pay-per-view, Global Force coming in and joining and becoming partners with Impact Wrestling and TNA. They dropped the TNA name and decided to go with, okay, this is going to be Global Force Impact Wrestling going forward. They adopt the colors and that stuff. They have an amazing Slammiversary pay-per-view, which was top-notch by all accounts. A very impressive show from top to bottom. Crown a brand new champion in the controversial Alberto El Patron, who had worked I don't want to say all 3 major companies because he hadn't worked New Japan yet and hadn't worked Ring of Honor, but he had just came off of the WWE run, and prior to that was on the initial cast of Lucha Underground, which was hot at that time. I believe it still is, kind of, sort of, but was really just at its hot period in 15, 16 there. And, just, I don't know what happened with that after, but it just fell apart, I think, because of Jeff's personal demons and that stuff, and started missing bookings for different indies around the country, around the world in that matter. And then next thing we know, hey, Double J's going into the WWE Hall of Fame, which is, thank you for enrolling into our rehab program. Here is all your benefits, and oh, by the way, you're going into the Hall of Fame. All right, great. So, as jaw-dropping as it is to see this name in the WWE Hall of Fame, I think I just outlined the reason why he's in the Hall of Fame. It's kind of the same type of deal why people like Sonny are in the Hall of Fame, where it's a condition of rehab, I would think.
Yeah, I'm curious. Just because he's had such a negative representation against WWEF for the last 15 years, all of a sudden it's water under the bridge.
Yes. Yeah. It'll be an amazing speech, and once all the details of this come out, it'd be really good to see And that's
when they do the Best of Jarrett DVD.
Yeah, exactly. And just moving on now with the other inductees, because Jarrett's was so long. Ivory going into the WWE Hall of Fame is just, in my opinion, WWE playing off of the popularity of Glow right now, because Ivory is one of the original Glow talents. She wrestled
She was a women's champion in Glow.
Women's champion in Glow, and then they brought her in during the Attitude Era in '99 and became a fixture of the company for. She had a good 10-year run in that stuff. But
her prime years were '99 to like '01 or '02.
Yeah, and then they used her as a commentator later on. That stuff. Okay, so 5-year run.
Mm-hmm.
With her, yeah, I can't really see much more than, hey, Glow is popular, so let's capitalize on this name, because wrestling fans and fans of our product will know this name and know her background.
I like Ivory. I think she, unfortunately, was in the wrong period at the wrong time. I think she was a strong worker, but when she has to fight against wrestlers like Miss Kitty or BB, it's tough.
Yeah. I mean, great person, outstanding individual. I've had a chance to meet her in person before. It's just that with any other Hall of Fame class, her going in would be, hey, cool, she's in. With this Hall of Fame class, it's like, hey, cool, she's in, but look at the other names in this class, they're kind of lackluster. So
yeah,
she kind of gets roped into that lackluster kind of meh. All right, that's nice.
And Glow is one of the top 10 Netflix shows, so why not?
Why not? Exactly. So, am I missing anyone here who...
We got the country boy who everyone thought was in.
Oh, my God. Okay. All right. All right. Well, Hillbilly Jim going into the Hall of Fame is probably the best example why this Hall of Fame class will probably be laughed at and mocked in future years, that all these people are going in. This is essentially a thank you for a lifetime of service to the WWE. He was, after his wrestling career concluded, in-ring career, not only a manager for the Godwins back in the mid-90s, but also a spokesperson and was involved with, I think, the production of Coliseum Video, which was the main video provider of all the WWE pay-per-views and compilations and that stuff throughout the 90s and 80s as well. Vince loves hillbilly gimmicks. It's been a given thing throughout the years. This is very Coco Beware. We'll just put it that way.
To be honest, I thought he was already in.
Really? Wow. A lot of people already did, which was surprising. And I was like, well, no, he isn't. But it's like, this is not.
He was never a top talent. He was a mid-carder, but he did a lot of work with the company.
Yeah. So it's a thank you for doing all the work with the company and that stuff. The last time we seen him on anything WWE related was with the Legends House stuff. His interview is going to be good. It'll be interesting. He's obviously done a lot for WWE, which is good, and they're definitely recognizing a long-time employee per se and that stuff. It's just, it doesn't bring a lot of flash to the Hall of Fame. It's not. That's the whole point of this video, guys and girls. It's not a very flashy, not a very star-studded Hall of Fame going in this year. And you're going to get that sometimes with a company like WWE. We're probably going to see this more often than not in the coming years until the stars of this generation decide to hang up the boots and that stuff. And we see a little later on, because quite frankly, all the top name guys that Vince has had in the past 20 or 30 years are either already in the WWE Hall of Fame or have done things to preclude themselves from being in the WWE Hall of Fame, i.e. Benoit, China, etc., etc. but even China is kind of debatable at this point.
She's getting closer.
Mm-hmm.
And they have to do... Are we going to talk about the celebrity one?
Kid Rock, I don't think there's really a need to talk about him. It's just, you know, thank you for doing all the music for us for all those pay-per-views and playing Taker's entrance music. That's just, you know, again, because OSW Review did a great job back in the day of talking about... They had a great piece in one of their reviews, I can't remember which one it was, where they outlined the 4 bands that WWE constantly goes to for...
Can I name them?
Yeah, go for it.
Kid.
Yep, that's one.
Limp.
Yes.
Saliva.
I don't know. It wasn't. I don't think it was Saliva.
Motorhead.
Motorhead's the 3rd one. Yep. Yeah. The 4th one was Creed.
They only did them for those vignette packages.
I believe the 4th one was Creed that they talked about. Was that? And those 4 were your go-to guys to do up music for WWE pay-per-views for a long time, like during the 2000s, 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004, etc. You know, that was the guys. So.
Yep.
So there we go. So anyways, and you know, at time of recording, there's still rumor going around too that we don't know who the quote-unquote deceased Hall of Fame induction would be this year. There's a heavy rumor that is Bam Bam Bigelow. If that's the case, I got nothing bad to say about Bam Bam whatsoever. I think between him and Vader, they're the 2 most influential big men we've seen in wrestling in a long time. If you want to add Yokozuna to that mix, go right ahead. But I think Bam Bam going into the Hall of Fame is a great choice. I have no argument with that. But with that being said, there are 2 or, in my opinion, if that's the list going forward, there are 3 names that I think should be on that list. With the Dudleys, I'll put Ivory on that list and Bam Bam. And everybody else is kind of meh. Not really, but okay. But again, this is not the Wrestling Hall of Fame. This is the Vinnie Mac Hall of Fame. Which is the great... Thank you for that segue, which is the great segment and a great way to end this... or segue, I should say. Not segment, but segue. And a great way to end this video. Just to reiterate the point that, again, this isn't a Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. This is a Sports Entertainment Hall of Fame. That's why you have Donald Trump in there. That's why you have... Drew Carey. That's why you have Mr. T, you know, and that celebrity wing, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and so on. These are people who were involved in big angles in WWE, celebrity involvement, and yes, we will be reaching a point in the next few years, sadly, where Kevin Federline will be asked to go to the WWE Hall of Fame. Hopefully not in Vegas, because that would just be awkward. But anyway.
Yes, he has a clean victory over John Cena.
Has a clean victory over John Cena, yes. Hey, can we rope Britney Spears in for WrestleMania in Vegas? Sure, let's invite her ex to go into the WWE Hall of Fame.
But someday we're going to get to the point where Susan St. James is a Hall of Famer.
It hasn't happened yet, but yeah, I'm surprised it hasn't. Is Dick Ebersol still married to her, or are they still?
I don't follow Dick Ebersol's life. I can't say.
I think they're separated. Yeah, now at this point, but I think that was the whole reason why Susan St. James got the commentary gig for WrestleMania 2, was because Dick wanted to put his wife out on TV in something that he was producing, or co-producing, I guess. So.
And it was horrible.
Yes. Yeah. It was. Come on, George, eat his leg.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Oh, come on, George.
How much does this guy weigh?
Now there's a name that should go into the Hall of Fame. Art O'Donovan. Or Art Donovan. As a civilian name would be. Anyways.
Cheers for Razor Ramon, mostly King of the Ring until the finals. He's like, Razor's going to lose.
Yeah.
Well, you were cheering for him.
Anyways, Moorhouse, I'm going to give you the final word for this video. I think we are in agreement that it is a very lackluster list going into the Hall of Fame this year. You know, final thoughts, just to wrap up.
Final thoughts. Yeah, it's a lackluster Hall of Fame. But once again, it's not a wrestling Hall of Fame. It's a Vince McMahon Hall of Fame. There'll be good speeches. There'll be a lot of tuxedos. I'll catch the highlights, though.
I mean, I'm debating whether I want to sit through it and watch it or not, but I think I probably will. I gotta look still and see what the schedule is for independent events going on like WWN Live and on Twitch and that stuff that evening. If there's anything that's really flashy at the same time, I might opt to watch that. Because it's a Friday night, right? No, it's a Friday night.
Is it Friday? Okay.
Yeah, they made the change last year at the Mania that I went to in Orlando that the NXT TakeOver took the traditional spot of the Saturday night pre-WrestleMania show, I guess, that the Hall of Fame used to be. The Hall of Fame would go on Friday. The reasoning behind that is actually a very good one, is that they didn't want... They had, in past years, had complaints from wrestlers saying that they were too hyped from the Hall of Fame to put in a better performance the day after at Mania. So if you do the Hall of Fame, have the guys and girls party it up, and that stuff, then they can go and do their obligations on Saturday. It's a more calming, more lax schedule going into what some of these guys and girls will be the biggest moment of their wrestling careers and that stuff on Sunday, right? So
okay. Yeah, I'm just looking here at the events, and the only one that kind of competes with it is Impact versus Lucha Underground,
which is interesting enough as it is. That's I'm a little torn about that one, but if it's going to be on Twitch, you can probably watch it on the on-demand after, right? So,
but it makes sense because Saturday, it's going to be the Battle of Supercard Honor versus Takeover,
which is always the whole thing, and they got. Supercard of Honor actually looks a lot better than TakeOver is at this point. But TakeOver has the Ciampa Gargano matchup that everybody has been wanting to see since Chicago last year in there.
But Ring of Honor has Omega Rhodes.
6 in one, half a dozen in the other. I don't know what we do. You better get your PVRs ready that weekend. That's all I say, you know.
Get your old VHS out, dust off your VHS, and start recording.
Loop the VHS to the computer and start recording. You can. But anyways, for Moorhouse, I'm Kellen Nitro. Later days, happy wrestling watching, and thank you for sitting through and just, listening to us discuss why we think the WWE Hall of Fame in 2018 is a very lackluster Hall of Fame list. And you can follow Moorhouse on Twitter at
the Moorhouse CDN,
and you can follow me at Twitter at Kellen Nitro. Tell us your thoughts, and hell, we'll take disagreements as well. We'll debate with you all day. We're nice people. So later
and you
days.
You can see my shitty drawing of Owen Hart there.
Your artwork is actually amazing. I'm going to go ahead and say that right now. He's been actually working on some art pieces and that stuff. Here's the first one. That's amazing. I love it.
It's Chad Owen Hart.
It's not bad. It's cool. Like I want to see a couple of these pieces when you get full color behind them and that stuff. We'll
my NATO's good though.
Yeah, that was really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
His Naito is just it's pretty tranquillo. We'll put it that way. It's super tranquillo. But later days, happy wrestling watching. See ya. Click that mash the hell out of the subscribe button, as the kids say. Just smash it. Smash that subs. All right, that's it. That's all I got.